Hey there team, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to Worth It Then Worth It Now, an ongoing segment where I have a look at games of yesteryear, specifically 10 years plus at least on this channel, and today we're talking about Styx, Master of Shadows. Now we line it all up with a sale, and this is on very deep sale at the moment. You can pick it up for a couple of bucks. I think you can pick up the other Styx game, End of Orcs and Men, which is the game that came before this, but it's not really the Styx series. It has Styx in it, and this Styx ongoing trilogy, because the new one's about to come out, that's the main reason why I'm having a look at this, is in itself a prequel to Of Orcs and Men. I'm pretty sure I've got all that right, because here's the thing. This is unusually a game that I slept on, but I've always wanted to play, and the third one's actually just around the corner, a couple of months out, and if we're being honest, I've been enjoying more and more of what Nacon's picking up these days. Now this originally wasn't published by Nacon. It says on Steam it's Holy Cyanide developed and published. I don't know if that's true. It's hard to see when people change things retroactively. I'm pretty sure this was under Focus back in the day, but I think Cyanide and Spiders, the masters of the AA Eurojank mid-range guilty pleasure games, a lot of them I've only just peripherally played, but it's a whole entire subgenre or space of gaming which I love, and I love covering a lot of that new stuff, but I think they had a pretty big spat with Focus, but I don't follow publisher politics quite so closely. Anyway, all of that is to say, this came out at a time before me YouTubing and when I was only really starting to kick off and get into PC indie gaming in earnest. Couple that with I'm a bit hot and cold on stealth games, so you can probably understand why I missed it in the first instance. So I booted it up, I've given the opening hours a go, and you know what? I love this. This is really good. I'm super impressed to the point where it's got me doing a double take. Either this is a masterclass in its own arena, or Scarlett, as he's gotten older, has changed tastes and needs to go back and look at things like Splinter Cell again, right? See if I'm misremembering or if, again, my palette has shifted. Because as far as like a stealth action game with a really interesting world-building story, you've got men and elves, and men seem to be more tyrannical, but elves are a little bit more mysterious and otherworldly as opposed to this whole fair, superior, elegant crap. The main character, Styx, this goblin, but from what I understand, he's unusual for a goblin. I think goblins are kind of feral and don't speak, and he's quite chatty and smarmy, and the voice actor does a lot to carry everything on his back. It would be so easy to make it just throwaway Marvel quip bullshit dialogue that you would expect. I expected it to be going in. I expected him to be a character that I hated. But he's dry, but quick and very likable, and really, I cannot speak highly enough of the writing and the world building in general. So much so that on the back of this, I went and got Of Orcs and Men, which is older than this, and it's a totally different genre, and there's a strong argument that it's not that good a game. But I was worried I was missing out on something, because this game throws you straight in the deep end. Styx has got like these migraines, and he needs to drink amber, which comes from this world tree. It's sort of an Yggdrasil thing. The only people that can extract the amber are the elves. There's some sort of sacred communion, something, but the elves are the only ones, but it's under the power control of the block of humans, and they've built big walls and cages around it. They have an uneasy alliance with the elves to extract it. So like, this is really unusual fantasy storytelling, and you can tell in the tone of my voice that I'm excited to have stumbled upon this 10 years removed, because this came out in 2014, 12 years, as a unique storytelling within that fantasy space, where everything else often is just quite derivative. So yeah, I'm impressed. I'm impressed that I'm going on a Styx spree. I may even check the second one out on the other channel. Again, we try and stay on scope here, 10 years plus, but I am looking at some older games on that. And we'll definitely be looking at the third release in a few months when that comes out too. All right, so what is Styx? I obviously glossed over it because I'm too busy being smitten about the world building and the performance and all that. It is a Splinter Cell-like type game. Stealth action with more mainstream appeal and control as well. I'm using mouse and keyboard, but you can feel that it would be right at home using thumbsticks. One of the cool novelties is because he has this amber stuff in his veins or whatever. Again, I don't really know what's going on. The game has opted to throw it as a prequel and in the deep end. I don't think it's assumed knowledge, it's just deep end stuff. But if your amber is glowing, geez, that sounds phrasing. So you can see like down his left arm, it's almost like orange tattoos that glow in the dark. But if they're glowing, that means you're concealed in the dark. And you creep around, you've got a dagger, you can kill dudes. It has a very novel way of dealing with combat, because one of my biggest complaints ever about stealth games, and you know, this is a hill that I die on frequently over time, and people will fight me on this, because roundly I find the stealth genre to be incomplete and dissatisfying. Often it will be a critical path problem, pretending to be a stealth game, which is to say the developers have decided one or two paths through the level that you cannot see that are hidden, and trial and error will reveal the developer's intent. That immediately I don't like, because that's brute force puzzling adjacent as opposed to even using your brain. So you're trying to figure out the way through, and if you get caught or whatever, usually the combat is a secondary because it's a stealth game. And I know I'm talking in very broad strokes, but this has been the case for stealth games forever. And often you die immediately or you get a game over screen and you reset. Now, this game still has a rhythm to that. If you get caught, chances are you're stuffed. But for a 12-year-old game, the innovation that they bring to it is that you'll get rushed by a guard. Like say a guard sees you, you walk in the light or make a noise or whatever. He'll run up and it'll lock you into combat with him. There's no getting away. There's no running and hiding or anything like that. This dude is going to leverage his way of doing things, which is to say he's a guard with armor and a sword. He's going to fight you, and you need to overcome that with this parry system. So they'll take big swings and you have to parry, and depending on the strength of the guy you're versing, like if he's a heavier looking dude, you'll have to get a couple of consecutive parries. The timings are very punishing and tough, and you'll lose like half your health if you miss them. But you get a couple of parries in and then you'll be able to stab the dude back. Now this is obviously escalated because that's noisy, and if you fall off a ledge into a crowded area with 6 guards, they're all going to line up to kill you and you're going to die. You're stuffed. But it does what honestly the original Assassin's Creed, which is something I looked at not that long ago, still a bit dated, but I still love it, but same sort of idea, trying to disincentivizing a combat heavy approach by making your tool set a bit hobbled. The only problem is with Assassin's Creed, the counter windows were too forgiving and you could kind of just bully through and attack anyone you wanted. So with this, it's tough, it's tricky, but there is a essentially way back if you mess up, you get caught by a guard. If you navigate the counters, you'll probably come out of it missing half your health, but you can continue along. Again, a novel solution to the eternal problem, which is stealth games. And having said that, I also realized you had things like Phantom Pain must have come out around this time, and that's probably had the strongest solution by being pseudo open world, but also having a combat back end that is fun and workable, so that the stealth game is just half of the equation, and once you're discovered, it turns into an action combat game. That I think that is probably the strongest solution, but let's not get off track. So you stealth around and you've got a couple of different little bits and pieces that you can pick up. Obviously potions. You can grab sand and throw that at torches to black them out. They lean into this amber power. You've got amber vision, and it's not quite, X-ray vision, see through walls, but it does brighten up the surrounding, and you can abuse that basically. It refunds your amber spent. It's more like a tax than an actual loss of mana. So that's helpful if you find yourself skulking around, but it's too dark, so you can see in the dark essentially. You can also disgustingly vomit up little clones of yourself, which I can only assume are more in line with a traditional goblin. And they seem smaller and more disposable. There's not really any big consequences from losing one to death while you're controlling it, but you can climb under grates to get at handles, that sort of thing. But even things like, dropping down ledges behind dudes, there'll be carpets because you're dealing with cobblestone castles, so if you don't land on the carpet, you'll get heard. You can assassinate dudes loudly and quietly from behind, put them in in boxes, that sort of thing. I'm kind of enjoying just navigating it around. It's been tough. I've wiped a couple of times, but also I'm kind of just going on a killing spree and eliminating everything and wiping the map, which is a bit of a guilty pleasure when it comes to stealth games. It doesn't really disincentivize you from just killing everybody. But yeah, I just can't understate how clean and fluid it feels. It's solid. I haven't had any glitches or bugs. Maybe a wonky execution animation here and there, but it feels polished. It feels mainstream, and the stealth is fun. And you can hear in my voice there's disbelief. So I'm enjoying the mechanics of a genre that I don't traditionally enjoy, and I find the world building to have a very unique and interesting twist on the traditional fantasy fare, and all of this carried by a pretty cool character that is not what you would expect going in. I'm human just like everyone else. I judge things at first glance. How else are you supposed to sift through the thousands of video games on Steam? And I assumed that this guy was going to be a horrible Marvel character, being an absolute smart-ass, snarky all the time, and he's not really. There's kind of a charm to him in his grumpy shiftiness. Anyway, I don't need to waffle anymore. A little bit more of a first look, much like the main channel. Wouldn't you believe it? There are games from 10 years ago that I never ended up playing, and my God, what a banger. Slipped through the cracks indeed. Check it out yourself. It's only a couple of bucks. You may well be smitten just like me and all of a sudden get excited for your new favorite series as the third installment comes out in a few months. Anyway, team, might just leave it there for the time being, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.